What would you do if your husband came home from work early and sat down at the kitchen table, but then you get a call from your real husband? This is Scared with Jess, and today's story is about a woman who said that something came into her house, but it wasn't her husband. I was making dinner when I heard the front door open. At first, that didn't bother me. My husband had texted earlier saying work was busy, though every now and then he'd get out early. It happened. I was at the stove, half paying attention to the pasta, half thinking about whether we still had enough garlic bread for both of us, and when I heard his shoes in the hallway, I called out, "You're home early." He didn't answer. That was the first thing that got under my skin. Usually he'd respond right away. Even if he was tired, even if he was in a mood, he'd say something. And this time I just heard a pause and then one quiet, flat, "Yeah." I turned around and he was standing in the kitchen doorway looking at me. The same work shirt and same face, but something still in me tightened up. He didn't come over, he didn't kiss my cheek, he didn't drop his bag by the wall like he usually does. He just stood there watching me like he was trying to remember what I'd look like from that angle. I laughed a little because I felt silly for even noticing and said, "Everything okay?" He asked, "Did anyone call today?" I said no. And then he asked, "Did you unlock the back door?" I remember blinking at him because the question was so strange. I said, "What?" He asked again in the same voice and same expression. I said, "No, I hadn't." Then he said, "Did you tell anyone I live here?" That was when my stomach dropped. I asked him what he was talking about, and he didn't answer. He came into the kitchen, pulled out a chair, and sat at the table. He folded his hands in front of him and looked at me. I turned the stove off, and I didn't think about it. I just did it. Then my phone rang. I looked down at the screen, and the blood left my face. It was my husband. At the table, the thing wearing him smiled. I answered the call with my hand shaking so hard I nearly lost the grip on my phone. And he said, "Hey, I'm leaving now. I should be home in 20." I couldn't speak. Then he said, "Why are you whispering?" I looked over at the kitchen table, and it was still sitting there in his chair with that same little smile, waiting. I said as quietly as I could, "If you're not home, who is sitting in my kitchen?" He went silent, and I could hear traffic behind him for a second. Then he said, sharp enough to cut right through me, "What?" The thing at the table stood up slowly. It never broke eye contact with me.